Have you ever wanted to offer your friends and family a choice of barbecue but just didn't have the time? Well, here's a simple, easy method where you can do just that.
Welcome to Smokin' Ass Barbecue.
I always like to start out by getting everything ready. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down a couple layers of heavy-duty foil. And then on top of that, I'll put my cutting board down. And then on top of the cutting board, I'll go ahead and put some paper towels on there. The spare ribs I picked up are St. Louis style. They're already pre-cut and packaged. That's just what my grocery had in stock. But if you want to save yourself a little bit of money, go ahead and get a whole rack of spare ribs and just trim them up yourself. There's really not much to it. As always, first thing we're going to do is rinse our ribs off. And then we're going to go ahead and lay them over on our paper towels with the meat side down. Then go ahead and get you a couple more paper towels and pat the top of them dry. Now the first thing you'll notice is there's a thick membrane on the back side of the ribs. If you want to remove this, just get you a butter knife, go down to the first rib and slide your knife right in between the top of the bone and the membrane. Just kind of pry it up a little bit all the way across. Then get you a paper towel so you can hold on to it because it's very slippery. Get it started good and just pull it right on off. Not hard to do at all. And we're going to go ahead and do the second one the same way. Just slide your knife up under the membrane, pry it up a little bit. Just get you a little good start all the way across. Grab your paper towel and just pull that sucker off. Okay, we don't need our paper towels anymore, so we'll go ahead and get those out of the way and get our ribs on the cutting board. Now you'll notice on the back of your ribs there's a little flap, and this flap needs to come off. It's only going to cause you problems later on as it's not going to cook even, and your rub will get up underneath that flap and build up a little pocket under there and mess up your seasoning. So just go ahead right to begin with, cut the flaps off. If you want to save it for something else, you can. I don't. Now, there's not going to be a whole lot of trimming to do on these ribs because they've already been trimmed up pretty well. Just kind of go around, look for any little loose hanging pieces of meat or fat. And if there's any pockets of fat, like just little thick areas, just go ahead and trim those down a little bit. A good rule of thumb here is don't leave anything on them that you don't want to take a bite of. The butcher left a chunk of meat on the end here. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that while we're at it. Now on the wider end, there's a thinner area of meat, and this really is just going to get overcooked in the smoker and everything. So I suggest go ahead, trim it off, get everything evened up good. But this little slice of meat here now, it's not bad. If you can throw it on the grill or an air fryer or use it for seasoning, it's a good chunk of meat. Now on the smaller end of your ribs, if you'll notice, there's some little small bones right at the end of it down there. These are going to cook and fall out and kind of mess everything up. So what I like to do is just go ahead and back up to about the second rib, go ahead and trim that off even, and be done with it. And we'll just go ahead and finish up our second rib the same way as we did the first one. And that's it for our trimming, so we can go ahead and get rid of our cutting board now. See how easy that is? These are the only spices we're going to use in our rubs. We've got paprika, granulated garlic, black pepper, kosher salt, and turbinado sugar. You can use brown sugar in place of that if you prefer. Now I've gone ahead and got two bowls. I labeled the bowls Texas and South, so you'll see why in just a minute. These rubs are going to be almost identical. So what we're going to do, we're going to start out, we're going to put 2 tablespoons of black pepper in each bowl. Now keep in mind, this is not my normal rib rub. There'll be another video coming out shortly with that on it. And we're going to follow that up with 1 tablespoon of kosher salt in each bowl. And we're going to add 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic to each bowl. Now we're going to put 1/2 tablespoon of paprika in each bowl. All we're using the paprika for is to add a little bit of color. It's not really going to do anything for flavoring. So you can really leave it out if you want to. I like it in there. It'll definitely make your ribs look better in the end. Now here's where the difference comes in our two rubs. We're going to take our turbinado sugar or brown sugar, whichever you decide to use, and we're going to add 3 tablespoons of it to our southern mix. Now you just want to take a spoon and mix these up good. Break up any lumps in there, whatever. Just give it all a good mix. And there we go. Our rubs are all ready. And here's the ingredients list if you care to write it down or anything. And we are ready to get some rub on these ribs. I generally like to start on the bone side of my ribs and finish up on the top side, the meat side, which is going to end up being your presentation side. So you kind of want it to look a little bit nicer and all on the platter. Now we're going to be fairly generous with our rub. We mixed everything together, so we don't have to worry too much about over salting this. But if you don't mix your rub up ahead of time, keep in mind ribs are a fairly thin piece of meat, and they're pretty easy to over salt. So go a little bit easy on that. You can always add more later if you need to. It also makes things a little bit easier if you put your rub in a shaker, just an old container you've saved or whatever you have on hand. I usually do that. I just didn't take time to do it today. And remember, always pat your meat. Don't rub it. Alright, we're just going to get this other one rubbed up here real quick, and we'll move on to our next step. I'm going to put a toothpick in our Texas style rib so we'll know which is which later on, because they're going to start looking a lot alike before this is over. And that's it for our seasoning. Okay, I'm going to wrap these up and just set them aside for about an hour or so to let the seasoning settle in some. In the meantime, I'm going to go fire up the smoker and get it ready. Okay, I've put the ribs on a rack inside a pan. It's just make it a little easier to move it in and out of the smoker without messing up our rub. The racks will keep it up off the pan and let the heat and smoke get all around the meat good. So we'll head outside. Okay, we're out at the pergola and we're ready to get everything going. I got the ribs out here and all my little accessories and so forth. We're going to be running the smoker, which is going to be using the Masterbuilt 40-inch electric today. We'll be running it at 275, the entire cook. And I think I'm going to use apple wood. That's kind of my preferred thing for pork. So we're going to get these ribs in and get them smoking. These are the ones going to be for our Texas style. If you remember, we've got a little pokey toothpick there for that one. And then, of course, our Southern style. And I'm going to go ahead and hook up the remote thermometer while I'm in here. And probably going to be about an hour before we mess with them, but this way we can monitor the temperature from up at the house and have an idea when to come back and check on them. Alrighty, we'll get it closed up and we'll keep an eye on things and be back in about an hour. Okay, it's been about an hour. And I know they're not ready to wrap, but I just want to take a look at them and just see if we're getting any dry spots or any issues coming up that we need to take care of. They look pretty good for the moment. I don't want to spritz these or mop them or anything unless I absolutely have to. And one way you can check is you want to kind of see if your rub is starting to set. If it's not coming off on your finger, then you're in pretty good shape. And as you can see, that's pretty well stuck. There's a little bit down in here in that pocket, but they're coming along very well. It's probably going to be about another hour before we need to wrap them. I'm watching the temperature up from the patio. So we'll keep an eye on things and we'll be back in a little bit to get them wrapped up. Okay, it's been about 2 hours. So let's see how these little things are doing. We don't want them to get dried out, but what we're looking for is a nice color before we wrap. That's our main thing. Right now we're looking about 150 degrees internal temperature. But the main thing I'm concerned about is the color on them and the bark is set good so we don't lose it when we wrap, that kind of thing. So just kind of look and see if it's got a bit of the color you want. I'm going to double check the internal temperature. Yep, that's dead on, baby. Okay, so that's showing like 148, and that's fine. I just don't want them to get dried out and that kind of thing. I prefer not to mop them or spritz if I don't have to. You can see the moisture on this one still looks great. And the color is getting that nice kind of mahogany color, they say. Whatever. I like the color of this one better than that one. But that's the difference in ribs. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and get them out and get them wrapped up and get them back in and let them get good and tender. All right. The first one we're going to do is our Texas style ribs, so we'll get those going on here. I want you to mention a couple things here. First of all, I've got double sheets of foil laid down. Always wrap your stuff in double foil. This stuff, it tears so easy, and there's nothing worse than putting food, whether it's briskets or whatever, in there, and then find out you got a tiny little pinhole and all your juices have run out in the bottom of your smoker. So always use double foil. The other thing is, put the shiny side of your foil to the inside. The dull side reflects less heat, so your food will cook a little bit quicker. So they say. Not sure how much that really makes a difference, but it's something I always do. Okay, so we've got our little toothpick, so we know this is our Texas style ribs we're doing. This one's going to be very simple because we're not really adding anything to it or whatever. The one thing, if you watch some of my earlier videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of lard. The pork lard, pork fat, whatever. Same thing your grandmother used 100 years ago on biscuits and pie crust and so forth. It really makes a huge difference. It's readily available at almost any grocery store. It's inexpensive. And it really helps out with anything like brisket or ribs or pork butt, whatever. It really does a good job. So what we're going to do, we're just going to mop this one down really well. Doesn't take a whole lot. We're just going to get a good coating on there. And that is about all we're going to do with the Texas style. That's it. We're going to wrap these back up and put them back in the smoker. I want to get them wrapped up fairly good. Okay, and these we'll put back in. And now we'll do our southern style. Now these we're going to do just a little bit different. Now, most of the videos and stuff you'll see, excuse me, they put down like a layer of butter and sugar and honey and all that kind of stuff. Now, I do that a lot also. And that's a perfectly good method. This time I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep it really simple. We're going to start out doing the same thing we did with the Texas style. We're going to mop them down really good with our pork fat, or lard as I call it, and get a good little bit of that on there. Okay, and then all we're going to do with these, we're going to put a little bit of honey on here. Honey's always good on everything, and it'll be good on these. And then I'm going to put a little bit more brown sugar on, just to sweeten things up some. I use turbinado sugar. You can use brown sugar just as well. I like turbinado sugar because it has basically the same flavor, but the granules are coarser, and so they tend to blend easier with salt and pepper and that kind of thing. It's just easier to judge how much you're putting on. So that's it. That's all we're going to do with these. A little honey, a little sugar. We're going to do the same thing, wrap them back up good and tight, and we're going to get them back in the smoker. Now I'm going to monitor the temperature on them so I will know when to come back and check them, but I'm expecting this to take, I don't know, probably another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours till they get to where I want. And then of course we're going to check them to make sure they're probe tender before we take them inside. So I'll get these in and we'll be back in a little bit. It got a little dark on us outside to finish the video, so I brought them inside, and as you can see they have a beautiful color on them. And now I'm going to do the final test that we always do. We always want to probe it. You can use a historead thermometer, toothpick, whatever you have. But you can see those are just as tender as peanut butter. And there you go. 2 different styles of ribs, prepped at the same time, cooked at the same time, and finished at the same time. Simple and easy. So y'all give this a try. I guarantee you'll like it.
Thanks for stopping by. See y'all soon.